It was an all right week. I moved up a little bit, about 9.8 to 9.1 or what thereabouts. But yeah, how do we go from three hookers to half a hooker in a week, eh?
Mate,
Grant gone.
what a great move for you. 9800 to 91. That's an incredible push. And let's have our own JMK pity party. It's actually really going to hurt the Dolphins as well as our teams, right?
Oh, definitely. It's gonna probably shuffle a few things around too. Like, I'm not sure exactly how it'll play out on the park because there's a few ways they could go about it. But yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
and we don't get to
Do
find out
they do
yet.
they push Plath to hooker and Stone to 13? Do they bring Harrison Graham around? Do they is aren't a couple of their backup hooker options also injured as well?
Yeah, I'd say I reckon Graham comes in. You might see a little mix with him and Plath, and
I'd say I'd say
yeah,
that's probably what's going to happen. We're going to have some sort of weird mix, and we're not going to be able to predict it until we actually see it.
which thankfully I don't think hurts Plath. But yeah, it's a fun time for us with our hookup situation. We both got Grant and JMK. What do you think of that situation with Grant for a starter? At least you don't have to bring in a hooker this week with Hands being there. I expect to bounce back from him too, right?
Yeah, you'd hope so, and it's just a pretty disgusting situation because Grant like rested from Origin. You expect the resting to be 1 week, and then he's out this week as well, potentially settling down niggles and from that cut on his face and stuff like that. It's just a real pain because I mean, potentially you're looking at like 4 or 5 weeks of him not playing, and you've kind of missed it. Like he's missed Origin week, he missed 17, he's missed 18, he's gonna miss 19 now with Origin. Does he get rested in 20 or reduced minutes? It's just a really terrible situation, and he hasn't been scoring well. Like he hasn't been doing a real lot, lots and lots of 40s instead of 50s and 60s. So at the moment, I don't hate selling him. Like, but if you do have JMK, you just go for him first because you know he's going to be out for sure for longer.
Yeah, definitely. And that's the negative about having such a good record, right? They're ahead of the league by 2 wins. You can just do these things, and that's going to
Oh,
be a
mm,
big factor in the back end of the year too, with these types of teams. And you either want teams in the low end of the draw of the ladder or hanging around that eight because even if they get to a sixth or a fifth, they're going to fight for home ground
yeah.
advantage and stuff like that as well. And yeah, that top four, you're buying. Obviously, a lot of our purchases are from those teams as well, which makes it hard, especially teams like the Roosters, right? Like if they're an Origin player, like you've got Crichton, he didn't score that well on the weekend, and then 19, does he back up in 20? I doubt it, right? Because he played 80 minutes in this one. Surely he gets a rest at some point. Then it's round 23. Then they probably missed last game as well. So some
Yeah.
players you could play like 3 or 4 games more than some other players, even with one bye in there. It's crazy.
Well, it's definitely a huge consideration. Like there are guys who want to get back into your team, but then you don't realize how much you're going to lose out on those weeks that they could be there. As you said, if you're missing him for say 4 weeks out of the rest of the year and you're playing in this year where a lot of us don't have a fantastic team value, you might be playing a 35-point player instead of a 50-point player, or even less potentially with guys like Hands and Drinkwater and stuff dropping 30s and 20s.
Definitely. Jacob in the private group asked, "Are we trading Hines in this week with a laugh face?" You obviously captained him last week. What are your thoughts on the situation around him? And is it this week or do you go next week?
I I think you can go next week unless you've got a bunch of trades left, to be honest, because he's dropping cash really high. I think his break even's like 99 or something really,
Yeah,
really high. And I mean, we saw early this year with Trindle, it does eat into his scores just a little bit. And I mean, this year seems to be not just a couple of 70 gun average guys. Maybe it doesn't seem to be happening this year. So you can go for the other captaincy options with less risk. I think Hughes has got a 5 game average of like 65 or something. He's tearing it up. You've got your feeder, so I don't think you're losing much by not having him yet. So to be honest, I think you just wait and get him in the round that you need him in round 19 potentially.
yeah. I can also see him just coming out and dominating this week as well. It wasn't that long ago he hit 124, right? So
Hmm.
crazy, crazy, crazy. Yeah, as you said, so 60. He's at 65.8 for feeders at 64.5. Then you're gonna want one of those mids at least, a Haas or a Yo, you'd imagine.
Yep.
Probably two gun halves, whether that's just Hines and Hughes, and you lock in that. probably want like an Aitken level guy that can switch between the center and edge. That's a 50s type of guy, and then maybe like a Latrell, at least a Latrell and or a Teddy, I'd imagine. And that's probably your base of top guns, right? Like that five maybe 655 plus guys.
Yeah, this year isn't the year where you get 12 of them and then a couple of 48, 52 average guys on the bench. It's not happening, and we're going to have to live with what we've got. So all of the rest of those guys, like our potentially like our Drinkwaters, our Carrazes, our Iros, are going to sit in our team all year without really much reason to trade them out, I'd say. So it's a tough one. So I'm personally looking to target either one of a Latrell or a Ponga. I've just got to see whether that's going to be at the expense of like Drinkwater or something. But in my situation, I'm starting to run low on trades.
Yeah.
And then we've got Sharp, we've got JMK, we've got a couple of issues actually. So it might end up being that we can't do them until we get those extra trades in round 20. And then we're really scraping the bottom of the barrel and having to sit on our hands for long periods of time without trading. So, do we go for somebody like Kai Pearce Paul out? He's scoring pretty rubbish, but I mean, he's still getting 80 minutes for now. So, I think you just kick the can down the road until you have to make a decision.
Yeah, might have to sit on our Brendan, won't we? But 750k guys, you have five of them. You only have five over 700k as well. So realistically, what do you reckon? Over 750k guys, seven we might be able to get then. And
Yeah,
then
I'd say
Fanua
so.
Blake's close, plus
Yeah,
close. They're all like
he should
50s.
be. He's just decided that Barnett can have a go the last couple of weeks.
Oh, mate, he's been incredible, hasn't he? So, yeah, a little bit of planning around kind of I know a lot of people like to kind of ride out a final sort of 18 and then, three guys that they would have that are cheaper. I think that's really cool to have as like a general base plan as well. I see people that do really well, right, put together something like that and have a little bit of a plan on targets you might want. So, is that something that you look at doing?
Yeah, definitely. There's, especially as you said, we haven't got many of those high price players. To get those high price players, you can force that by getting in those cash outs. Now, I said probably only about 3 weeks ago, it's way too early for cash outs, but all of a sudden we've started getting a couple of really interesting options and the cash outs are starting to come up. I don't think that you should go for somebody who's going to be there for a week and then gone. But if they're going to do a job until you set up your final team and then disappear, maybe that's okay. We may be overreacting for the round 27 like we were last year, but then again, maybe that's just going to be how it is going forward. We don't know until it
Mm.
happens again. So the guys like, oh, like you've got all these guys just below 300k or about there, like Cook, Adam Cook, Simpkin, Targo's brother at the Eels, all just under the 300k mark, which can really help you get somebody like a Latrell or a Ponga or a Hines very soon with mid-price players like a JMK and a Sharp or something like that. That's a real possibility that you can get into your team without too much effort.
Definitely for sure. And we'll mention a couple of them now, actually. I forgot to speak about Jack Howarth and also Jake Simpkin. Before we get to that, Paul has asked, hey guys, is it time to jump off the May train? I could hold him or Grant. It's a pretty interesting question. Obviously, this week is probably some lower minutes, right? But around 20, maybe some good minutes. But it's really hard to tell, isn't it, with Terrell? Like how it's going to end up. And then he's one injury away from big minutes too. Like it's hard to decide that
It's
one,
hard
isn't it?
to it's hard to sell somebody who can repeatedly, like few others in the comp, just come out randomly and knock out a 70 and you're not surprised. So I think I think it's not necessary to sell him, but yeah, like those tries have propped him up. But I mean, he's getting those tries and he's being attacking. He's a powerful unit. But 46 minutes, you can't expect a 50 to 55 average of that all the time with 46 minutes. And that's with sort of best case scenario. So 705k is the tip top. You'll probably get him and have him. I think you can afford to sell later if you don't urgently need those numbers. Because yeah, there's probably others in the team at the moment who will score worse than him this week anyway. Like
Yeah.
I don't want to say Drinkwater, but maybe Drinkwater given recent form.
Yeah, he's killed it. It was great for a month or so there. When even in games we thought maybe he wouldn't, like that Roosters
Mm.
game, he got 80
But
and stuff. So
but
it was tough on the weekend.
but you see, the thing is, he just got sin binned and a really bad score. That's when all the good stuff happened last year, straight after coming back from that. So he's all good now, you know.
Oh God! As soon as he did that, I was like, that is the most idiotic play I've ever seen in a long time. I've seen in a long time. Almost as bad as his big swinging arm last year. But yeah, Terrell, I think maybe if you can get him to one of the top tier guys, like a Haas or something like that, I think people are going for him this week. You've
Mm.
got like Nico Hines, you could use his cash to get up to. So there's some decent ones for sure. Jack Howarth there, mate, 279. Thought he copped a bit of an injury, and they said that he, might be out a week, but he's been named, and I suppose he's an interesting, fellow to look at. Does he keep his spot in this side longer term as a bench guy potentially as well? And doesn't play 19. I don't know. It's a weird one for now.
Yeah, I don't love it until we see the full Nick Meaney situation. Like, is he injured? Is he going to come back after the injury, or is Howarth going to stay there and Meaney go to wing or something? And I don't know, will Warbrick drops out? There's a couple of things that can happen, and I don't know if I like jumping on somebody who has very strong potential to just drop back to a pretty ordinary role. So I don't think he's going to go too far, and he doesn't play 19, so he's probably lower on my list than some of the others.
Yeah, I definitely have Simpkin higher on my list. Obviously, he plays around 19.
Hmm.
Are we going to see Lachlan Croker? Obviously, it's not great. And I didn't mention either in the team TLT analysis, but Alex Twil's out again. So, thoughts and prayers are out with him and with Croker as well for their neck and head recoveries there. But Simpkin at 301K, even in, you saw there in the 57 minutes, he made 48 tackles. Wild.
Yeah. Well, he's always been that guy. Last year we had a really great run through the Origin period, with him as a cash out, and he might help us with that again. It's just that he is go. The role is kind of the opposite of last year. It's, oh, he's definitely not going to stay there. There's somebody else coming to replace him, and in this case, it's he's definitely there until Lachlan Croker may or may not come back.
Mm.
It's a really weird situation because we knew when Simpkin was going to play last year, and this year we don't know week to week. But while he is playing week to week, he's going to score well and he's a good option. But yeah, how long does that last? A week, 2 weeks, four, or yeah,
Exactly. And then you've got Starling on the other hand, a 326K, but doesn't play around 19. But we know also has a history of really good scores with minutes too, don't we?
oh, he's probably my favorite player in the entire competition to just randomly be a cash cow every year at some point. Like,
Yeah. Good
most of the
stats.
time we don't pick it or be able to get on, but sometimes he gets cheap enough that you can have a good look, or he starts here early enough that you might have a go at it. But yeah, if he gets 50 minutes, he can get 40 points in that sort of minutes. He's that type of player. He's explosive. He likes to do a couple of things, and good fantasy scorer. So you can see plenty of that on in those 2020 and 2021 games.
How good's that
55 minutes
one?
off the bench. Yeah,
99.
awesome stuff.
He can do
Yeah,
it. He can
and
definitely
look at
do
all
it.
those 55-minute games where he's scoring 30s and 40s, and even touching 50 very occasionally. So
Yeah.
if he gets that 50-minute role over Levi now, and Wolford and stuff like that at a price of 23, that's not a bad option. It's not the cheapest cheap cash out of all time, but has potential to do all right if he stays there.
I reckon there was a chance I'd do it this week if he was available in 19. That's my thoughts. But yeah, Jake, so I'm so tempted to get Starling. Do you think he'll be in the team long term? I think he'll definitely be in the team. And I think there's probably what, a 75% chance he keeps this role now, maybe.
Yeah, I'm more confident that he stays there long term than Simpkin, but Simpkin's a little bit cheaper and probably a little bit better minutes. So I don't know, risk versus reward maybe.
Yeah, definitely.
How many
And
trades do you
mate,
have left?
yeah, that's the question, right? I'm at 4. What are you at?
Three. So not
Oh,
particularly happy. Not
yeah.
particularly happy. I was doing well for a while, then made a few, and then still got problems.
Yeah, definitely. So 17 without trades this week for you, and that includes Sharp,
Hmm.
Hands, White, and probably other cheap guy. It's not too bad. What are you thinking for this week? JMK goes definitely.
Yeah, JMK goes. I'm trying to remember how much spare cash I have, because either I can straight swap JMK to somebody that I really like, or I can use him and Sharp potentially to get a gun. So if Murray was going to play 19, I just try my hardest to go JMK straight to Murray. But yeah, I mean, obviously there's Origin and stuff like that. So, and I've got to be careful with who I want to bring in because my final team value is not going to be great. And I need as many good point scorers in there as I can. So, a potential JMK to like sideways to a Murray type thing, or two of them to get like a Ponga, a Latrell. Uh, I'd say Bateman, but I kind of don't need an edge. It's a tough one.
Yeah, I forgot to mention Bateman as well. I'll chuck him in there, but I feel like with him you can wait a week anyway, and he's 640, right? So
Mm.
Murray's definitely an interesting one, but I can't see myself or anyone. Well, some people will, but buying him before next week, obviously,
Yeah.
and then
It's really
less
tough.
minutes
It's
in
really tough.
20, and yeah, plenty to think about there. Bateman, do we want to add another Tiger to our list? Like, because they do have a buy later on as well. Are we going to be
Mm.
holding Galvin Fainu at that point? Bateman
Yeah.
coming off injury.
What about old Jacob Little, the guy who's
Yeah.
always been 60 minutes, 65 minutes, all of a sudden is now basically the best hooker in the comp for fantasy.
Well, he's my decision this week is actually going to be Cook or Little. So
Mm.
it's a tough decision, and yeah, minutes wise, anything over what? Let's put 60 there in the hooking slot. He's a 52 average in 71 minutes. When we get over that 70 barrier, it's obviously even better there at 54, and he's priced at 50, so there's a little bit of value on top of that. Playing really well. Do you see much of an issue with him playing, pretty good teams coming up there? Roosters, Broncos, buy into Penrith, Melbourne.
Yeah, that's pretty much as hard as you can get, to be honest. It's pretty tough. So, um,
But he's going to make a
it
lot of
depends how hard
tackles.
you reckon they're gonna be pushed. Like they could end up putting a bench hooker on and giving him a spell. But I mean, they don't usually play him for 80. Like it's taken the Tigers and the Dragons 3 years to finally give him a shot at 80 minutes, and maybe now they just go for that. They've had guys like Luciano Leilua and some of the other guys who are sort of a bit more of a utility forward now that can cover a few things. And I don't know, maybe they're giving Little the license to do that from now on. So I'm a little bit worried, I guess, but maybe not as worried as I might be.
Yeah, I've probably got like a 10% worry rate with him. They're winning games at the moment. They've moved some into the eight, and he's obviously a big part of that. And he's offloading, good tackle numbers, and even that game there where he had low tackle numbers at 24 against the Tigers, he still got a 50 with tackle breaks, with running meters, and a line breaks, and a line break assist as well. So he's doing it in
Hmm.
in multiple ways, which is really really cool. A pretty cool question here is from Liam. So he's in 50th or 52nd overall, which is awesome. If I have just two trades left and 17 players this week, do you think I should hold Grant until next week in case of mass injuries? And I think that's a really good question for a lot of people that are going to be in a similar boat there. Do you potentially hold someone like Grant? And if there's injuries for other players next week, we know Grant's going to be good in the long term, but the next few weeks is a bit tough. Is it worth waiting for that if you think you're going to get a decent enough score this week? What do you reckon?
I think you can do that, especially if you're down to two.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, if you've got like Sharp and Hands as 16th and 17th, it's more dodgy.
Yeah, true.
But if you've got 17 that you're confident of getting you, say, 30
30s.
points at
Yeah.
least, I'd probably just stay like that. Because yeah, we've got lots of question marks being thrown up this week, and that means next week and round 20 could be even more chaotic. So I don't know injury wise, but who's actually in the roles that you want. A lot's changing at the moment. So if you've got two and you're playing 17, unless you're gonna lose like 50 points from a couple of those players who aren't real good, you can just play them.
Yeah, what are you expecting for numbers for next week? Just on general vibe for top 5,000.
I reckon I reckon probably like at least two-thirds will be about 13. I reckon there's going to be a good more proportion of guys who are sliding down like 12, 11, 10, 9 because they're running out of trades and don't want to, or just have too many injuries or things like that. I think the trades are going to come to bite in round 19 because some are going to get used up. So I think there'll be pretty decent numbers, but not as good as 16.
Yeah, I reckon I might see it like an 11 and a half or something be the average. I reckon if you can get
Mm,
13 next week, because I'm looking at my team and it's making a bunch of trades. I think if all goes poorly, like I think if we see Fafita out next week, then it might
mm.
be less. It
That'll
might be like
be,
10 and a
yeah.
half or 11. And
That'll be the type of trade that where you make that decision on Grant in round 19 when you've got two left in round 18. That's the type of decision you want to wait for.
yeah, that's right. Because I think if he ends up playing Origin, I think I need to use my 4 trades to get 13 on the park. And part of me,
Mm.
it's setting up with Hines and Damien Cook, and so getting these guns in, which is helpful. I'd imagine these next 2 weeks, and that means pretty good scores, unless like Latrell or Hines comes out and burns me. But next week, I think round 19, if you can get 13 on the park, you'll make. I think I'll make bulk ranks, and then it's just
Mm.
can you survive the back end with 8 trades? And Maddie came on. We were both in the same boat last year with 1 trade heading into 20. Do you have a general idea where you were?
I think I'm going to be either one or run out by then. I was expecting not to, and then made quite a few over the last 2 weeks. How many have I made? So yeah, round 15 and 16, I made 6 trades in total. So that's where I went from sitting pretty to down in the danger zone as well. Yeah, Hans Whiten, Marshall King, Sharp, Fainu, Fanua Blake. Probably only two of those we've worked out so
Ugh.
far.
Yeah, it's rough.
Yuck.
Shout out to Matt here. He had the JBFA in front of his name. It's not saying that here anymore, but shout out to him for that one. JBFA French Bulldogs. I think he's just changed his name again. T-Bar. Oh, he's changed his name. Sad. Boo. We love you still, Matty. It's right. You're a JBFA boy through and through. But what's he got? Cook, Fafita, Garrick to come back. That's fun.
Hmm.
Grant's out. He'll be running with hands as well and Cook this week.
Yeah, I'd say
Hines.
my
He's
I'd
got
say
5 trades. So.
targets are probably going to be for Garrick, who's going to be one of the three for sure for round 19.
Yeah.
And
So
then I'll have to make a decision on whether I make one or two and go down to 0.
ooh, fancy, fancy, fancy. What do we got? So 2 trades left. 2 trades left. 5, 1, 3, 2, 0,
None.
7.
Ooh, 7.
Hoo-hoo, on the Benji's Buster 0.
I think we've been watching Benji's Busters for a couple of weeks now,
Oh,
like
that's right.
4 to 6 weeks, and he's been that guy who's had that really high trades left, and,
Mm.
and now he's coming up the ranks. Now he's making his charge.
Oh, this is so rough. This guy's got no trades left. It's been sitting with Twile the whole time. Gets a bit of luck
No,
with Kohler coming back into fullback status. What do you think of that situation with Kohler?
bit annoyed because I traded him out to get one of those 6.
Rough. He's not too bad here. Sort of 3, 4 trades, another 0, a 1, a 2. Yeah, it's an interesting little situation. We'll check the yaps. Yaps. Median score last week was 801, and you got what 803. So you beat the average in the top 1,000. So yeah, that's something. That's something. Average trades are down at 3.2. We've got 134 with 0, 134 with 1, 150 with 2. So what's that? More than a third. Well, more than a third, about 400. Just over 400 there with 2 or less trades with 2 rounds before we get extras. So if you're in a 2 situation, do you think it's like a 1 this week, leave 1 at least next week if you want to make an upgrade this week?
Yeah. I think you can't go into round 19 with no trades. I think that's just asking for trouble. You
Yeah.
have to have at least 1 for next week.
Just because you think of like if you lose your captain this week and don't have a trade for next week, like that's a captaincy level score that you can't get from someone next week. There's obviously not a tremendous amount of top tier guns coming into next week, right? Like with so many Origin guys, like even like Teddy was there for round 16, which he's not there anymore. There's not a load of like if Fafita goes to Origin, it's really you need Hines, right? Because just looking at these, my team, who are we going to have? Garrick, like you're not going to captain him. Plath or Aiken might be captaincy type players in my team if Fafita's out. You're not going to have a Jerome Hughes. There's no Edwards, Mitchell, Isaiah Watson, Carrigan, Crichton, Ponga, if he's there, 19. Cook, like
Mm.
they're the type of options you're looking at. There's no Tarpanet. Kolomatangi might be something decent. Reed Marnie's not there. McInnes, how good was his score? That was frustrating. Even Jacob Little could be a decent captaincy option as well. Or Greg the leg, mate. He's back in action. What do you reckon?
So good. Ponga back equals good Greg, and he was warming up for it last week. So I think he's not a bad option. Like he's one of the few mid rangers I wouldn't mind because we just see how the team behaves with Ponga in there. That attack on the left feeds him. And yeah, look at him. He's lost 270K. And I mean, he won't make all of that back.
Oh,
But I mean,
I think I'm getting in
if
this
he's
week.
if he's
So what if he
averaging
does?
45 or something like that, with Ponga scoring lots of tries, that'll be pretty good. Look at that absolute dearth of tries until round 17. Two tries all year until last week.
Yeah, last year was obviously crazy in the back end. He did have a 30 with a try, but an 87 in there when you had him, obviously 45 and 58 to finish the year. That little run there, 66, 73, 54. And I think I'm grabbing him this week, mate. So I'll do it for you this season.
Nice.
I think just the upside's there, right? Like 2022, he
Yeah.
averaged 41 he had a 4-minute game off the bench. So 41 without that. And then, yeah, 53 and a half last year. So the upside's there enough. Like you can't see him scoring worse than 34, right? Like he did have that start to the year, but I don't know, he was a bit off. The team was a bit off. Like,
Yeah, and he wasn't getting the ball. Like in 2023,
he was the guy.
he was getting 200 meters a game, 199.3, 1.3 line breaks, and a try every game. This year, barely any line breaks, barely any tries, and a drop in meters. But that's not as big a factor as the tries. So like if you lose 2.5 points in meters and a good few in tackle breaks, if you're getting the ball more often, those meters tackle breaks go up, those tries go up. It just makes sense.
Yeah. And how good Bradman Best is looking. I think that's helpful as well. So,
Is that's got to be close to the biggest score of the year? Huge effort.
yeah, Hines 124. And then I think that'll be that 113. Maybe that'll be the next biggest.
Mm.
We haven't had any Cleary masterclasses. Corey says, hey, mate, traded Harry to Cook and still have 5 trades left. That's sick. Have 19 to play, so it's not essential I use more. However, I'm thinking it may be a good time to push and get Hines in. I'll have to triple trade to do so, leaving me with 3. Thoughts from yourself and Scoop? I think with those
If
trades, it sounds pretty good, but in that case, it probably sounds like a cash down. What do you think of guys like, would it be like a Sipley, that kind of range? Let us know, Corey, what kind of cash you'd have for that third
mm,
one. What do you think of Sipley, for example? Or does he have to go cheaper to
I've
Snarling and stuff?
I've eyed Sipley for a while over the years because he's got a really good PPM. He just needs the minutes. He got it for a little bit last year, but he crept up in price. Now might be the time where he gets some minutes. I
He
mean,
got to
you've
622.
got yeah, you've got guys who potentially could take minutes off him, but it looks like he's in for some good ones. And yeah, you just have to hope he doesn't go back to that 25, 30-minute role. And I don't think he will, given those longer term injuries. So yeah, I mean, it's not it it's the type of trade that will get you 3 decent scorers if you're triple trading, rather than a gun, a cash out, and an okay scorer. So like
Yeah.
it's not going to give you as much money. He might have 100K less to get somebody, but he'll score okay. I don't think you'll want to start him in your mids, but he could be a really good sort of 17th man for you. And buying him at less than 400K is not a bad option.
Yeah, well, you just got to have a look at his thing. So he was out. I think he was suspended for the start of the year. Did
Hmm.
he get? I think he did something in preseason. And he came back round 4. He got obviously a good PPM, 25 minutes. Then he built up to the 45, 45. Then he get injured in round 7. So round 6, missed a few games. Came back off the bench, went low, 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 low in his couple of games back, and then pushed up when they needed him to play bigger minutes last week. They got Alloy
Hmm.
back. Obviously, Gerbo and those guys. But you imagine next week will be a pretty big minute game for him with Gerbo out, Olakwatu
Hmm.
out. So yeah, I
Yeah,
can see
I
like
don't,
on
I
a
don't think he's going to
week
do
to week basis
miracles,
be
but I
good.
think he's going to do better than his price of 27 by quite a lot. So
Oh yeah, yeah, that's right. Probably like it's similar to a Greg situation where you know they have that upside. Like he could average 50
yeah,
for a little while. Greg could do the same. So, and he's
Yeah.
cheaper than that. Here, have a little thought about this one. I was mucking around if I could get Hines this week as well as getting a hooker. So it would have been Little, Sipley, and Hines,
Mm.
right? So it would have been Weeks would have been out, and then Grant and JMK, 5K short. Oh.
Ooh. Oh,
So I was like,
that's
and then I
tough.
was like, well,
That would
three
have been pretty
trades.
juicy.
It would only leave me with one. So I was like, maybe I don't want to do that anyway, but I'm trying to get Hines next week anyway. So I think
Yeah.
with the two trades I'm looking to do, I can still remove Weeks next week and probably
Yeah.
Cotter to get Hines. And then I have the pick of whoever of these, like if it maybe it is a Madison. I don't know. Maybe he's the gun now. It could be Sipley next week. Like I've got some options as that second, like does that cash down next week? So I think that's the way I'm going to play it. But there would have been a big part of me that wanted to send that if it fit the 5K. So
100%. And those 5K trades can be really important sometimes. It's there's not a lot you can do about them, but yeah. Um, I had oh, who did I have? I had like instead of JMK, I had Marnie and Nathan Brown lined up, but I couldn't do that. It was just too much, so I went hands and JMK, and
is that when he
now
got the
they're both in the
57 as
dirt.
well? Brown?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Brown did really well in that other round. Sipley looks like he's ahead of him now, so not a fantastic long term, but man, it would have been nice in that week.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes it's like that. Or yeah, you got the pick of the two, and like I could have gone Cook a bunch of weeks ago, went JMK. But I think it was like 50K more expensive. So I might not have I don't think I was able to do like a Campbell trade the next week and stuff. So it all would have everything would have worked out differently. But yeah, those 50-50 sometimes. As you know, with like holding Cleary, sorry to bring up bad juju, but a
Yeah.
lot of people did that this year and they got off to a slow start, and it's just trying to claw back from there. So yeah, what else you got for me, mate? We're almost finished up. Have you locked in your trades, or are you still thinking?
No, well, when Grant was out, I just basically decided, okay, I'm going to put all of my people who aren't playing or on the naughty list on my bench. So it hasn't updated, obviously, on the actual app itself,
Yep.
but like all of my Dolphins, my Sharp, my Grant, my JMK are all sitting on that bench in the naughty
Hmm.
corner, and I'm trying to figure out what combinations I can do to get somebody back into my starting team instead, because there's a lot to think about this week.
Yeah, I see. I'm also seeing a few people just grabbing some Origin guys this week, just and it really upgrades things like a few people doing like a Latrell and House or one of the two. Do you see much benefit in that, or do you think is it worth just waiting for that one and what you gain this week you'll probably lose in 19 and 20?
I think that is the case. Like if you're really struggling for numbers this week, it can help, but like also you can buy other players who will also help, so it's not as helpful as you think. I think you
A
can do it
mix.
if you've already planned really well for 19 and are going to have close to 13 already. Yeah, grab a Murray. Otherwise, it's kind of really tough to do.
Yeah. And obviously, like I'm saying is that's the first thing I thought of, but then I was like, oh wow, like they'll get a good score this week, and then those guys are in your team already, and you don't have to use trades in a few weeks' time to get them. So I can definitely see
Hmm.
merit both ways. But yeah,
Yeah.
I suppose like if you've got a heap of trades, then it's probably is worth it. I feel like yeah, I don't know. But either way, like if you don't have a lot of trades, you're then locking that. Like if it's the last two trades, you're locking that in now, and yeah, you don't have to use as many later when you don't have many. But then the
Yeah,
other
I
way,
think
if you
that's
have a
the thing.
lot,
If
yeah,
if you've got six and can make two or three this week, including an Origin guy, then you've still got the same amount as everybody to
and then you can
get
cover
12
next
or
week too.
13 in round 19, and
Yeah,
then you're gonna get ahead of them again later. So I think it's
yeah,
really just if you've got extra trades, you are now in the hot seat.
yeah, definitely. I'm hoping that helps me in Supercoach. I've got 18 left, so
Oh wow, that's pretty good. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I think I can
Go
only use
hard.
21 was what I could max trade. So um, yeah, can almost max trade for the rest of the year, which is fun, I suppose. Where are you at in Supercoach for trades? Are you giving up?
Uh, I'm a lot lower than that. I think I'm about 13, 14.
Yeah, okay.
It's not heaps.
I think I'm
Yeah.
3,000. I'm okay. 22nd, 2,200 last year, so hoping to beat that. I think we can get. I think I can get
Nice.
top 1,000 with 18 trades.
Yeah, I think so. That'll be good.
Surely. All right. Any final thoughts, mate? for the week? Any words of wisdom for life for everyone?
Greg Marju to score 80 points with Ponga back for your team.
Just for me or for everyone?
Just because I love Big Greg, but also for your team.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, I think you'll have a little. You had a little smile last week, didn't you, when you got double?
I always love seeing him do really well. There's a couple players like that, and I do like seeing the Gregosaurus go over.
Oh, the Gregosaurus, how good. We'll leave it at that, team. Thanks so much for tuning in, as always, and for those that dropped a little 5-star on the Spotify as well. So thanks, guys. We'll catch you in that next video next week.